Thank you everyone for coming to tonight's presentation on Graduation 101. And this is our presenters and schedule. First will be Kylie Howard. She is from the ADA. She will be talking to you about insurance and what insurance you need when you graduate. And then we have Kathleen Kennedy. She's from PDA, and she'll be talking to you about the licensure requirements. And then we have Dr. Bijan Amizadeh. He will be talking to you about buying a practice. And then we have Dr. Lauren Janetti. She will be talking to you about networking, CE, and mentoring. And then we will go into some pre-submitted questions, live questions, and then closing remarks. It should last about an hour. And if you have any questions, please type them in the chat and we will go over them later.
This is great. Well, hi everyone. I appreciate you guys all being on here today. My name is Kylie Howard. I'm with the ADA and Alliant. And today, really going to keep it really super brief. Just want to let you guys know the coverages that you guys have had through your D1 through D4, along with that, how it benefits you after you graduate. And then I will have this on the screen again if you don't have the opportunity to scan it now. I know most of you guys are D3s and D4s, so you've probably seen this before. But this is just in case you want to make sure your contact information is up to date, beneficiary lists, and those sort of things are all up to date. That way that your guys' coverage is active. And so a little bit about the ADA insurance along with protective. So ADA insurance and Alliant, we are the endorsed broker. So dentists are our sole focus while you're in dental school and then while you're out of dental school. And it is an ADA member exclusive. Our policies are only given to ADA members. And they are student benefits that get to set you guys up for success now and in the future. And on the other side, there is Protective. They are the carrier. All the insurance that you're given is through Protective. The wonderful thing about them is they are industry experts. They have over 100 years of experience and have highly rated insurance plans that are an ADA member exclusive. So for ADA students, members, becoming better protected starts now for you guys. So what you guys are currently doing is you guys have a plethora of classes. Did my screen stop sharing? Sorry, guys. You guys have a plethora of classes. You have years of studying, countless exams I would not even want to look at, challenging clinicals. But really, overall, you guys have made a financial investment within yourself. And the point of what I want to get over this presentation today is making sure you understand that you guys are an asset worth protecting. And so what you guys are given now through D1 through D4, and then along with your residency, if you chose to pursue that as well, it is a $50,000 term life insurance lump sum. And then on the disability insurance side, that is $2,000 a month for up to 7 years. And then an additional $2,000 if you were to ever become disabled is given to you for student loan repayments. And then, so the big one here is life insurance. So life insurance, really the importance of it is to protect your loved ones. It is to prevent if any of you guys are married, any of you have children, whoever is your beneficiary, it prevents a financial burden onto your loved ones, those who take care of you. And something you'll see me talk about throughout this presentation is your approval is automatically guaranteed, and I'll get to why that's really important. So a little bit on the life insurance side. So term life insurance, it is a pure protection insurance. There is no cash value that you can build, but the purpose of it is that you're covered for an insured period of time. And why might you guys need that? There's a plethora of reasons, whether that be required by banks to secure a loan, affordable compared to other types of life insurance like whole life or universal life, if you're familiar, or paying off debts like loan, credit cards for surviving spouse or family, funding children's education, protecting your mortgage on other large financial obligations, and along with that, helping cover estate or inheritance taxes. Those are the core reasons of why people get life insurance. Some endorsements or riders that are always optional to add on to your policy. And this is after you graduate as well. It is not something given to you during your time in school, but if you chose to pursue these are great options. So the accidental death benefit rider, kind of morbid. It's basically you get 2 times like the payout if you were to die and it was proven it was due to an accident. Waiver of premium, that's one that I deal with a lot. It's if you were to ever become totally disabled and unable to work, the insurance company waives any future premium payments while the coverage is in force. And then the child term and the spousal term rider, that is essentially just extending some coverage to either your child or your spouse. And then the conversion rider, it allows you to convert your term life policy into more of a permanent one, like the whole life or universal life without a medical exam. All right, and then there's disability insurance. So this is actually based off of real data that are claims have been submitted by the insured ADA members, and that is that 1 in 4 dentists become disabled. So as I was talking about how you guys have put a financial investment, really protecting yourself and understanding that you're an asset worth protecting is essential. Disability insurance really helps ensure you receive that predictable income month to month if you were to ever become disabled due to an illness or injury. And a little bit more in depth of this policy as well. So as I was saying, the disability is an income replacement monthly. You can go up to, I believe it's 25,000 after you graduate. And it's whatever you think is best for your suit of life. Benefits, yes, paid monthly, and they are up until age 65. The things that will affect costs are mainly your waiting period, either 60, 90, 180 days. Your age is great. You know, if you're just coming out of school, it's a perfect time to get into it. Riders, health, and pre-existing conditions. And our disability insurance is the own occupation policy. So the benefits apply if you can't work specifically as a dentist, even if you can work in another role. And why would a dentist need disability insurance? It's that a dentist is 6 times more likely to become disabled during their career than to die. And the reason why you're more likely to become disabled as a dentist is you already know your eyesight is so important, your hands. There's a lot of things that go into it that make you more likely to be disabled versus someone else in a different profession. And then common riders with this one is the guaranteed purchase option, which lets you increase coverage later on without a medical examination. And then my favorite one I like to tell people about is the residual and partial disability rider. Essentially, our basic disability insurance, it is if you become completely and totally disabled. And the residual and partial disability rider allows you, if you have a partial disability or something that's reoccurring, and you lose part of your income, you still get that payout. Some claim examples, and we do try to keep these updated as often as we see them coming in. You lose sight in one eye due to an injury, or you're doing work around the house and you fall through the roof of your garage. That would personally never happen to me because I'm never getting on the roof, but if you ever got on the roof, it could. If you injure yourself playing tennis and require surgery, or you must take a leave of absence from work due to mental illness. That is one I'm seeing a lot of claims coming in. That is a rising thing. Or you're pregnant and put on bed rest for several months. So there's many things that could happen that are, you never know it's going to happen to you until it happens to you, is the gist of disability income. And quick facts, so why guaranteed approval is important. As I was talking about before, some insurance companies will not approve you if you have pre-existing conditions. Even if you're taking some ADHD medication or any anxiety medication, there are some things that they will prevent you from getting a policy. So mental illnesses, previous sports injuries, if you had one in college or high school, degenerative conditions and diabetes. That is really a big thing for anyone that has any of those things. The guaranteed approval makes it possible that you do get that protection. And then what happens when you're no longer a dental student as you guys are slowly approaching our goal today to tell you about and goal to continue support you is not only in your dental career or your college career, but your dental career as well. So activating your graduate offer. So as I was saying before, what you have now is the $50,000 term life. It'll automatically jump to $100,000 term life July 1st after graduation. And then your disability, it still will stay at the 2,000, but you are always able to increase it. As I was saying, it goes up to 25,000. It's really up to your discretion of what you think you need monthly. And then what happens after you enroll? So you will be on the lookout for your certificate. It should take about 3 to 4 weeks after submitting your request for coverage. You will fill out your beneficiary designation forms and then return them. And then update all contact information. That's the biggest thing. While you'll see the QR code again at the end, is you just want to make sure it's going to the right email, it's going to the right address, and all of that is up to date. And if you are ever curious where you go on the ASDA site, this is the section that you can get a lot more information if you have questions after this presentation as well. So the key takeaways for you guys from your D1 to D4 dental career, you have been provided free life and disability protection. Dental school is a major financial investment, and insurance really does protect the biggest asset, which, as I've said numerous times, is you. Life insurance helps take care of those who rely on you, while disability income helps any financial burdens in case of an accident. And your approval is guaranteed. And once your insurance is activated, you are able to then apply for your graduate offer. And then I do have my contact information up here if anyone wants to take a picture. That is my direct phone number. I work 8 to 5 most days, so give me a call if you have any other questions. I'm always happy to help. And these are the links as well to the websites for more information. And the last thing I'll do is show you the QR code again. Okay. And then if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer anything.
So, hello, everybody. Good evening. My name is Kathleen Bumpers, and I'm the Government Relations Manager at the Pennsylvania Dental Association. And I'm going to give you all an overview of dental licensure, and then more specifically, what you are going to need in order to apply for a dental license in Pennsylvania. So, if you are planning to practice in Pennsylvania after graduation, or you simply would like the ability to be able to practice in Pennsylvania after graduation, you will be applying for a dental license. And what that does is it allows you to be legally authorized to be able to practice dentistry in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. You may also be applying for an anesthesia permit. So, individuals who want to be able to administer any level of anesthesia beyond local will also need an anesthesia permit. And in Pennsylvania, we have 3 different levels of anesthesia permit. We have an unrestricted permit, which allows you to administer general anesthesia, deep sedation, conscious sedation, or nitrous oxide. We have a restricted permit 1, which is strictly for conscious sedation or nitrous oxide. And then finally, we have a restricted 2 permit, which is for nitrous oxide only. So a question that I get a lot of times is, can I apply for my anesthesia permit at the same time that I'm applying for my initial dental license? And the answer is, it depends. So a lot of the information that you will need in order to apply for an anesthesia permit will be dependent on where you are going to be practicing, the type of equipment you are going to be using. So if you already have a practice lined up, say you're going into a family practice or something like that, you may be able to apply at the same time, but most individuals will probably need to apply for an anesthesia permit later. So dentists are required to renew their license every other year, and it's going to be on the odd number year. So the licensure period runs from April 1st of the odd number year through March 31st of the next odd number year. So I understand that is confusing. So let me give you an example. So the current licensure period that we are in started on April 1st of 2025, and the current period will run through March 31st of 2027. So all dental licenses will need to be renewed before 11:59 p.m. on March 31st, 2027. And the window to start a renewal is always going to open approximately 60 days prior to March 31st, which is usually early February. And then the new licensure cycle will begin on April 1st. So our next licensure cycle will begin on April 1st, 2027. In order to renew a dental license, dentists are going to need to complete 30 hours of continuing education. They are going to need a current CPR certification in adult, child, and infant CPR. You're going to need to take 2 hours of child abuse continuing education through an approved provider. And if you have a DEA registration, you're going to need to take 2 hours of opioid CE. At least half of your CE hours are going to need to be completed either in person or via live CE. And then if you do have an anesthesia unrestricted or restricted permit 1, half of your 30 hours will need to be in anesthesia related courses. If you are going to be applying for a new dental license before the next renewal in 2027, which is probably going to be all or most of you that are on the call this evening, you are going to be exempt from the 30-hour CE requirement for the next renewal. However, you are still going to need to take 2 hours of child abuse continuing education. Unfortunately, nobody skirts around that requirement. You're going to need it in order to renew. Okay, so now that we kind of went through an overview of just licensure as a whole in Pennsylvania, I'm going to talk more specifically about actually applying for a dental license. So the first thing is that you must apply online using our PALS system. The application fee for applying is currently $260, but it will increase to $282 in July of 2027. So if anybody on the call is going to be applying for their initial license on or after that date, your application fee is going to be slightly increased. The average processing time for a license is 7 to 10 business days, but that period is probably going to be increased in what I like to call licensure season, and that runs approximately, I'd say, May through July or August. It's essentially when everybody is completing their programs, not just dentists, but dental assistants, dental hygienists. It's when everybody is applying for a new license. So it does tend to take a little bit longer. After you have submitted your application and you're waiting for them to process it, you can keep track of your license progress on the PALS system. And if you're missing any information or there's any issues with your documentation, the state board should let you know via the PALS system that, hey, we're missing something. We need this from you. So, what you will need to apply for your license, the documentation that you need. Of course, you are going to need to fill out the application and pay the application fee. So I talked earlier about child abuse continuing education for renewal only being 2 hours. As a new licensee, you are going to need to have 3 hours of child abuse continuing education through an approved provider. So there's a list on the State Board of Dentistry's website of all the approved providers that you can select from. After you complete your continuing education, your child abuse continuing education, the program sponsor will actually forward verification to the state board saying that, yes, you did complete the program. That's a little bit different from other CE in Pennsylvania. It's the only one that they actually have to send verification to the state board on your behalf. So my next point is, because of that, your information has to match up in the system. They have to be able to attach your proof of completion along with your licensure application. So it is very important that your information match exactly. When you are registering for child abuse CE, do not use a nickname. double check your social security number, triple check your social security number. You need to make sure that all the information on your CE registration matches the information on your license application exactly. If it doesn't and they can't connect the two within the system, there is a chance that you are going to have to take the course again in order to get your license. You will need to complete a clinical exam, and those scores will be directly, excuse me, you need to complete a clinical exam and you need to have the scores sent directly to the State Board of Dentistry, with the exception of the CDCA exam. Our State Board of Dentistry has the ability to access their systems, so they can look up those scores on their own. You do not need to submit those. You will need a current CPR certification in adult, child, and infant CPR. And then you will need to complete an FBI criminal background check. So for the background check, you must use Identigo, which is the vendor that the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania contracts with. You will also be given a service code at the application time, and you must use that service code when you register with Identigo. That is how they know to send your results directly to the State Board of Dentistry. So you must use that service code, or the State Board of Dentistry will not accept your results. You will need to complete a self-query from the National Practitioner Data Bank to send to the State Board of Dentistry. If you have a license, a certification, an authorization, anything to practice dentistry in another state, you will need to send the State Board of Dentistry a letter in good standing. You will also need to contact the Joint Commission on National Dental Examinations and request that they upload your scores to the online portal. Okay, opioid CE. So you will need 4 hours total of opioid continuing education. You will need 2 hours in pain management or identification of addiction, and then another 2 hours in prescribing or the dispensing of opioids. And you will have up to 1 year after you obtain your license in order to complete that requirement. Regardless of whether you plan to register for a DEA number, allowing you to write prescriptions for controlled substances in Pennsylvania, you will need to complete the opioid continuing education as a new licensee. You will have to send a record of graduation directly to the State Board of Dentistry. How this will work is there will be a form that the State Board of Dentistry wants you to use that you will send to your program. The program will fill out and then send back directly to the State Board. That form is available for download after you submit your application in the PAL system. So it won't be something you'll be able to access ahead of time. So don't panic when you can't find the form. You won't be able to download it until after you've submitted your application. And then finally, you'll need a resume or a curriculum vitae outlining any kind of practicing or any kind of activity that you have done between graduation and applying for your dental license. So if you go on to a post-grad program, specialty program, you'll need to, make note of that. But that's what they'll be looking for. Okay. And Amanda, I don't know if you want me to take questions now or save them for the end.
If anyone has any ready, they can ask. If no burning questions, you can just put them in the chat and we could save them for the end as well.
Just have a quick question. So if we want to practice in another state, it's just a letter in good standing that we need to send to the state board?
If are you currently a dental student right now?
Yeah, I'm a D4.
You're a D4. Okay. Do you have a license to practice anywhere else in another country or territory?
Yes, yeah, I do.
Okay. Um, then yes, if you are submitting all of the other requirements, as a dental student, then yes, you should only have to submit a letter in good standing along with your application.
Got you. Thank you.
So yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about my experiences buying a practice. I had two different transitions. One was buying a third of a practice in a partnership initially, and then a few years later buying out my two partners to acquire the rest of the practice. So just wanted to share a few of the things that I picked up along the way. So yeah, I started as an associate in 2011, part-time. Came on full-time in my practice in 2015. Partnered with the two other dentists in 2016. Um, that particular transition, the partnership, we utilized a practice transition company, which I'll talk a little bit about in a minute. And uh, we've had various associates over the years. And beginning of 2024, I bought out my other two partners, and we did not use a broker for that transaction, which is a very different experience. Um, one note about partnerships I would share with people looking to buy their practice. I think that there should be a compelling reason for all the parties involved if they want to consider being partners for the buyer and the sellers. Everybody should have a very strong motivation, and it's important that everybody understands that motivation. Um, and the reason for that is because many partnerships do fail. So you have to tread carefully with that. I know a lot of younger grads are enticed by the notion of partnering, but you should know what the terms of that are up front and what are the reasons of the owners for wanting partners. Um, one note about loans, being that I've taken the two different sets of loans, it's important to apply to multiple lenders. You don't want to do it excessively because it can affect your credit adversely, but you'd like to have maybe two to three that you can compare, and you can also have them compete against one another to give you a better rate, which is what I did. And it is advantageous because oftentimes you can get significant reductions in like the total interest paid over the life of the loan by doing that. The first transition I used a financial group called Clarion. They're affiliated with Benco Dental, who's a like a dental supply company. The second time I used Bank of America, and that was they actually outcompeted everybody on the rate there. So, um, and in that transition as well, I was able to get them down by kind of playing them against one another. So, definitely not a bad way to save some money. Um, as I mentioned, the first transaction had a practice transition company. I won't mention the name specifically, but all practice transition companies typically will take a percent of the transaction price as their commission. So that's something to consider, is that their incentive is for the price to be higher naturally because they get a higher commission. Not saying that they won't, some of them, they won't, none of them will be fair, but it's something to consider in your calculations. So I would also say to avoid practice transition companies that insist on dual representation, meaning that they represent both you and the seller. The seller and the buyer, because it's difficult to represent both parties fairly, I would say. Um, so typically they'll do evaluation of the practice, and you can have that done without a practice transition manager. But if you have a practice transition company, they will do that as part of the process. Typically, the price, depending on the state and the area, can range anywhere from 60 to over 100% of previous year's revenue. Um, Another way to handle those kinds of transitions, aside from the practice transition companies, you can have a dental lawyer and dental accountants handle the transition, and typically they're paid by like fixed fees, not percent of the transition fee. So uh, you can, generally speaking, there's not much incentive for them either way. So um, I tend to prefer that way. The second time, that's kind of what we did. We did not have a broker. We agreed upon a value, actually did not do a valuation the second time. But that wouldn't be, I think that would be pretty atypical. But the transition was handled by lawyers and accountants, basically. So I found that to be a little bit less stressful of a process. Um, one other thing that as a new buyer you want to consider is that the price isn't the only thing that you can negotiate. One very important thing is the breakdown of that price. So when you buy a practice for, say, let's say $500,000, that price is allocated to different things. Some of the money is allocated to goodwill, some is accounts receivable, another is equipment, and then a few other things. As a buyer, you want to try to negotiate to get as much of the value towards equipment as possible, because that gives you a nice tax deduction called Section 179, which will reduce your taxable income substantially in the same year that you purchase the practice. So definitely you can, even if you weren't super happy negotiating the price on the front end, you can finagle some things on the back end that will help you as well. Another tip when you're buying a practice is you should have preferably an accountant that has experience with dental practices, analyze the expenses and revenues to understand what the cash flow looks like for the practice. And they can help explain to you what you can expect financially and what you'd be capable of doing, and what you can expect to make. So those are all important things that maybe as a new dentist, you're not familiar at looking at those numbers. So it's definitely pays to have that kind of help when you're looking at those numbers. Another thing to consider is that you should buy a practice that you can immediately grow the revenue in, ideally, if you can find such a practice and that's within your ability. And I'll talk a little bit more about how you would grow immediately. You should look at multiple practices. Consider your neighbors in the area that you're buying. So is it a crowded area? Is it rural versus urban? I find that most people are often gravitating towards, like, for example, in our state, the Philadelphia, Pittsburgh areas. But there's a lot more competition there. If you're willing to step outside of your comfort zone, go to more rural areas, you can often do very, very well because they're not as crowded of a neighborhood for dentists. So something to consider. So yeah, you should look at, is there room to grow? And that doesn't just mean physically, like in terms of the building itself or the number of operatories, or parking or the building itself, but also what procedures do you bring to the table that maybe were not done before. And that's a way to instantly grow the practice as well. Also, if it's a retiring dentist, are you working at a quicker pace, or are they working at a pace that's quicker than yours too? Because that can affect the revenue either way. You also should consider the services and hours that you can add to what their current schedule and offerings are. Maybe there's things that are within the skill set of the previous dentist that you just don't want to do. So, as a new dentist, if you take on those things, you can turn something that you bought for, say, 500,000 and very quickly make it worth 800,000. So, those are the things you want to look at. And that's basically been my experience with the two transitions. If anybody has any questions, let me know.
And Dr. Lauren Janetti will talk about these. She is the president of Lancaster County Dental Society.
Awesome. Thank you, Amanda. And thank you, everyone, for having me tonight. Kudos to everyone who is still here. I know you guys are all exhausted. It is a Tuesday evening. You have got stuff to study for and things to do and prepare for the rest of the week. So kudos to all you guys. I remember being on the other side of the screen and being exhausted and tired and wondering, oh my God, I'm so tired and stressed out and kind of losing hope. So I am here from the other side to give you guys hope and that there is light at the end of the tunnel. Dentistry is an amazing career. It is going to provide for you and you just got to keep going. I say we get to do professional arts and crafts all day and it is the best job in the world. So those days that you just feel like the man's got you down, just remember why you're doing this in the first place and just know that there's someone out there who's rooting for you. All right. And that it's a great profession. So kudos to you guys for sticking through and being here on a Tuesday. It's Tuesday, right? It was a crazy day. Anyway, it's been a busy week. My name is Lauren Janetti. As Amanda said, I am a prosthodontist. My practice is in Lancaster. I too purchased it about 4 or 5 years ago. So if anybody has any questions about that, I am happy to answer. A little bit about my background. I always like to know who's speaking with me. So I'm a Pennsylvania girl through and through. So I went to Pitt for undergrad, and then I was at Temple Dental, and did my residency up in New York. And then I came back to Pennsylvania because this is where my family is and where I wanted to settle down. So piggybacking on before we get to networking about that, where you buy your practice or where you settle down, make sure you like the area and that's where you want to go, and be a little versatile. And maybe I never thought I would end up in Lancaster, to be honest, but open your world and your eyes and realize that there's other opportunities out there and you could be really happy. And I'm so happy to be here and settled here. So just kind of put your feelers out there, have an idea, but to be open-minded. So talking about networking, so networking is huge. And a lot of the times you hear this as like a buzzword. And I know when I was going through school, I was like, okay, I get it. What does that mean? Like handing out business cards and like shaking people's hands and introducing myself. To me now, it's evolved more into relationships and friendships really within dentistry and your profession. Okay. Dentistry can be a really lonely profession if you let it. Right now, think about it. You are surrounded by like-minded individuals. You're in school and you have all your classmates to ask about that study question that you don't understand. Help, hey, I forgot these notes. Can you help me out here? Hey, I got this case in clinic. I have no idea what to do. What did you do last week that it worked for you? Or how did you work with this professor in this way? Think about just the network you have right now, how great that is. When you graduate, if you don't continue to put yourself out there, you can be the only dentist you see for weeks. And I'm going to tell you right now, that's not necessarily the best way to live. I know I wouldn't like that because I talk with my friends, dentistry and otherwise, almost every day. I literally was working today. I had 3 or 4 different text messages. One of my friends was the president of the society last year, and she was asking me about any new grads because I teach as well. She's like, hey, the new grad we hired from you was wonderful. I'm looking for another one if you could put feelers out there. So if anybody's looking, let me know. But also too, like, hey, I got this patient coming here. I got this, I got that. So networking is huge in far as making your network. Your network is your net worth. And how do you do that? I remember coming out of school being like, I'm going to be a loner because I'm nobody special. I don't know how to put myself out there. I feel uncomfortable. I did ASDA, but real world's different than school. How do you do this? And not only in your professional life, but in life, I remember you got to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And that's putting yourself out there. When you go to the areas where you're going to settle down or where you've had your first job, when you're interviewing the doctors or the offices, ask them, hey, what study clubs do you work with? What dental societies are there? So I'm president of the Lancaster County Dental Society. Look on their websites. Okay. There's the Philadelphia area one, and there's different ones as well. And Harrisburg, all of this. So wherever you settle, no matter the state, Google it. See if they have a local chapter. And if not, reach out to the specialists or other doctors in the area and ask them. They might be a member of a study club. And I'll tell you what, if they're good doctors, they will be more than happy to have you come in and sit with them. And a study club can range from like Spear Study Club, where it's a segmented, like everything is regimented in lectures, to I know in mine, we have a group of general dentists, orthodontists. There's about 9 or 10 of us in all different specialties, and we all take turns presenting on either cases or different situations. And that camaraderie that you build over time of just consistently showing up, that's half the battle. Okay. A lot of people think, and I know we're in this like TikTok world of immediate gratification, but it's the consistency of showing up. Even if that first to 1 or 2 meetings, you don't really talk to anybody except the person you were sitting next to, that's okay. Because guess what? By the third or the fourth one you show up, people are going to start recognizing you. They're going to start talking with you. They're going to remember, oh, you said that you had that tough case coming up that other day. How did that go? And that's how you form relationships. And that's what makes you become a networked person who can see somebody at a meeting and be like, "Oh, hey, how you doing? It's good to see you." So get comfortable being uncomfortable. Volunteering is a huge thing. And again, wherever you settle down, Mama PA, it's so funny that we're talking about this right now because literally just this morning at Morning Huddle, I said to my team, "Hey, I love this activity. It is a free dental clinic and it travels around Pennsylvania. If any of you have done it, you know what a wonderful, wonderful opportunity it is. It's 2 days of just the most magnificent, caring, amazing ability to help people and to see that you can make a difference. So I'm going to have my team. Close the office for that day. I'm getting my team. I'm going to pay for the hotels for them, just so that we can do this as a group and we can give back to this amazing state and community. Vacation CEs. As far as summertime, you guys have classes intertwined in there, but if you can find CEs, whether online, Spare Education is a great one. I don't know if we're supposed to endorse any, but and then just a PTA has wonderful ones as well. But they continuing learning and being a student, you never stop learning. And the minute you leave school, my professor said, and I still think about it almost every day, that diploma is a certificate to start learning dentistry. Okay, you're in school right now and you're learning just the tip of the iceberg, but there is so much more. So you have to be open-minded and continuously learn. I know that I'm talking with my friends about, oh, hey, here's this like resin course that you should really take. And I learned something from that. And sometimes I apply it the next day to my patients and see the results. So continuously learning. Going to your dental society meetings, the PDM, the Pennsylvania's dental meeting is a great one. Lots of vendors and there's social events there. And again, it's just building that network, getting those phone calls and phone numbers that you can reach out to people if you need. There's the new dentist committees as well. And again, if you're under 10 years out, you understand how scary it is. You guys are all students right now, so I love to tell my students, if anybody tells you that the first year at a dental school is easy, they're either lying or they're lying. Okay. It is not easy, no matter if you're going into a family practice or if you're going into a DSO, because you have to flip your mentality from this student mindset of just studying and getting the right answer on the test or getting this requirement checked off in clinic to actually sitting down and having a human being in front of you, and you have 5 other human beings waiting for you in the reception area, and you have to treat every person the way that they deserve and the respect. And that takes time. That takes being uncomfortable. You come out realizing, oh my God, I don't know anything. How do I do that? How do I reline a denture? How do I fix a denture? Who do I call for this? So just give yourself some grace, but to be able to have a like-minded individuals to call, and the new dentist committees and meeting like-minded individuals. I couldn't have gotten through these first 5-6 years without having somebody on speed dial and calling and be like, guess what happened to me today? And they're gonna be like, oh yep, that happened 2 years ago. And to be able to talk with somebody about it is key. Okay. And then you have your signing day in schools, and that'll be over the lunch period for you guys. All right. All right, so your local chapter. So the purpose of CE, okay, so it's not only for your licensure, like Kathleen was talking about, okay, but also for your societies can help with that. I know it sounds daunting, and I remember going through all of this and hearing it when I was a student, being like, I'm not going to remember any of this. I don't know how to sign up for my license. How do I do this? So the PDA is a wonderful resource. Go on the website. Honestly, email or call. They're amazing people there, and they are literally just here to help you. And this is not their first rodeo or their second. So reach out and just give that cold email and you'll get the help that you need. Okay. But the CE is also important for community. Okay. So you want to be around your like-minded individuals and be able to have those opportunities to have somebody if you need to call. And I tell a lot of stories. And the reason I do that is because the best lectures that I remember and the information I remember is from stories. So, there was one time when it was going to the CE and the I had a patient come in swelling in their cheek, and I wasn't sure. I had an idea what it was, but because I had networked and went to these continuing educations, I was able to call 3 different specialists on the phone within 10 minutes and come back and tell my patient, hey, this is how we're going to treat you, even though I had never done this before. So going to that is key, and to just put yourself out there. But the PDA has a lot of resources on there. There's the child abuse, the pain management, everything that Kathleen had gone through for you. It's a great website for you. Okay. And mentors. So that's another key word that you hear all the time, and you're like, oh my God, I am nobody special. How the heck do I get a mentor? What is a mentor? What does that even mean? Right. So I'm going to put myself out there. If anybody needs a mentor, or they just need somebody to be like, I don't know what I'm doing. I feel like I'm losing it. I am in the middle of school and I don't know if this is the right thing. I'm happy to be your first resource. Reach out to me. You can get my information from Amanda, and also my email is just my name, lauren.genetti@gmail. Okay. But listen, it is lonely out there, and it is scary. And sometimes you don't want to talk to your classmates about something that's bothering you because you don't want them to be judged or a competition or whatnot. So I have students all the time texting me at like 6:30 in the morning, an x-ray or a concern, or like, hey, patient did this and I'm not sure what to do. What do you think? So feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy. Just say, hey, I was on the webinar. I remember you from like 2 months ago and I have this issue. Are you able to help me? So I'm happy to help in any way. But also with a mentor too, I know I just developed mine organically. So getting a mentor and going leads, you can do an official like this through the QR code and get connected with one, which is awesome. And also to build them in your own life. So my favorite mentors are the ones that actually became my friends, and they were, my professors. It would be in residency or at school. And it was just those doctors that I looked at and I was like, you know what? I want to be like them. I want to have their demeanor. I want to practice dentistry in the specific way that they do it and do it right. And start talking to them. Start treating them like human beings, asking them how they are, asking them questions, talking with them, and have that answer develop organically. You don't just go to somebody and say, hey, can you be my mentor? Because it doesn't, it could happen, but really it's the give and take. It's that, hey, I really value what I see in you. This is what I'm thinking, and I like the way how you do this. Can you teach me more? And if they're the right people, then they'll be more than happy to help you. And some of them are my lifelong friends.
Okay. So yeah, the QR code on the screen, you can apply for a mentor that way. Yeah. And then we will do some pre-submitted questions here. One of them was about finding jobs. There's actually a couple about where to find jobs. So on our site, padental.org, you can go down to the classified ads and opportunities available there. And then the ADA on their site, they have the Career Center. So you could just type ADA Career Center into Google and that'll come up there. So take advantage of those, especially the D4s. It'll be here before you know it. And then there are some other questions about understanding job offers, contracts, and interviewing tips. So on our YouTube, our is PA Dental Video. We have 3 different webinars: associate agreements and contracts, and then interviewing tips and CV success. Those are webinars that I host every single spring. You can watch the recorded ones or join us this spring as well. So you can find those answers now or just wait a couple months and ask questions that you have. And then the other 3 questions were more licensure related. So these are for Kathleen. And then again, if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat and we'll go over them next. How to transition your license when moving to other states? What are the additional requirements?
Okay, so I'm looking at the 3 questions that were pre-submitted, and I'm going to lump the first question and the third question together. So in terms of how you transition your license when you're moving to other states, additional requirements, it's really going to depend on what state you are going to. You are going to have to check to see what their requirements are. Currently in Pennsylvania, we do not have reciprocity reciprocity with any other state. So, for example, just because you have a dental license in Pennsylvania does not mean that you could automatically get one in, let's just say, I don't know, what's a Alabama. In Alabama. I don't know why I picked that, but it sounds good. So, if you were looking to transition to your license to another state, you would really need to check with the state board, or the dental examiners, whatever they're called in the state you're looking to get a license in, as to what their specific requirements are. And then it's kind of going to be the same thing for how do you get licensed in states that don't accept the 8X. Again, you are going to have to reach out to that individual state, see what they do accept, and see how they can work with you on that. That, unfortunately, I really can't answer about requirements in other states. And then, oh, but I guess before I move on from that, if you do have a specific question about moving to another state, you can feel free to reach out to me. And if you give me specifics, I can do a little bit of research for you and get back to you and try to help you out as best as I can. And then the middle question, licensure and documentation requirements for foreign qualified dentists that have done specialty training at a CODA school. So I guess, if you're talking about like completing like a residency program or something like that, you would apply. You would apply for a license. If you have taken a board examination, here in the United States, you would apply for licensure via examination, and you would submit an application. I guess just as any other dental student would with those documentations. If you did not take a board examination, you would submit for licensure via criteria and submit your documentation that way. So again, that is kind of a specialty question, a specific question that's kind of a general answer, but I would need to have just a little bit more specifics and able to address that.
Okay, and I will go to the questions in the chat after this. Just want to let you guys know that as a student member, you can receive discounts on various products, including laptops and other tech. To view a complete list of the partners, you can visit the web address shown on your screen. And then there will be a post-event email after this webinar. I would probably send it out tomorrow or the next day. I will include our presenters' contact information so you can reach out to them if you have any other questions. So just be aware of that. And there will also be a survey in there. And then let's see the chat here. If they are going into a GPR and PA, do they need to apply for a license after graduation or after the GPR?
You can do either. So you do not need to have a dental license, a Pennsylvania dental license, to complete your residency program, as long as you are just practicing within the confines of the residency program. If you want to do any sort of moonlighting while you are doing your program, if you want to do any kind of volunteer work at a clinic, if you want to work at a private practice one day a week, if you want to do anything outside the confines of the residency program, you will need a Pennsylvania license to do so. So it really is just going to depend on if you want to practice outside of the program or not, but you do not need a Pennsylvania license in order to just exclusively do or complete your program.
Okay. And I don't see any other questions in the chat as of now. But if you guys think of anything, again, I will include their emails in the post-event emails so you can reach out to our presenters. And I just want to thank everyone for coming tonight and thank our presenters, Kylie, Kathleen, Dr. Amazade, and Dr. Janetti, for putting on this presentation tonight. And I hope everyone has a great rest of your week. And yeah, thank you again for coming. Have a good night, everyone.